back to the Daily Grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
We got some breaking news hot off the interwebs, with George St. Pierre out indefinitely revealed by Dana White due to colitis. The UFC is looking at booking the current interim middleweight champion Robert Whittaker versus the former UFC middleweight champion Luke Rockhold, as reported by Ariel Helwani on Twitter. He did say that this is exactly what he had to say. Preliminary talks are underway to book Robert Whittaker versus Luke Rockhold for UFC 221 in Perth, Western Australia, sources say. Not 100% yet, just yet though. Now, a lot of people are going to be upset with this news because they were expecting Robert Whittaker versus George St. Pierre maybe at UFC 221, but as I said in the beginning of the video, Dana White has recently revealed after UFC 218 that George St. Pierre is suffering from colitis, which is like a disease in like your intestines or some shit like that. I reported on it not too long ago with those details. But so with that being said, it's looking like George St. Pierre is going to be out for a while, and meanwhile the current UFC interim champion is just starting to get healthy, so he's ready to defend his interim belt. He would be ready to unify his belt, but the champion's injured now, so it's looking like Robert Whittaker is going to be defending his interim belt, and this is completely fine. It makes sense. A lot of you might think it sounds weird defending an interim belt at first, and I will say it is. Defending an interim belt is weird if you're talking about when you have a healthy champion, as in Tony Ferguson. It would be not make much sense for Tony Ferguson to defend his interim lightweight championship because Conor McGregor's healthy and well, so he's waiting to unify his belt with Conor McGregor. Meanwhile, Robert Whittaker, the current middleweight champion, George St. Pierre, is not healthy and well, therefore it's fine for him to defend his interim title, which is looking like is what's going to happen at UFC 221. A lot of people kind of expected George St. Pierre to not fight, Brendan Schaub being one of who actually unofficially reported this fight a few weeks back. He said on his podcast he doesn't believe George St. Pierre will be fighting the winner of Whittaker and Rockhold, but before the talks might have just been mumblings back then, but Brendan Schaub did unofficially say something about this before. And I love this fight, Luke Rockhold versus Robert Whittaker. I'm very interested to see who's going to win this fight, man. Robert Whittaker, aka Bobby Knuckles. He did take on that nickname. Bobby Knuckles is probably the best middleweight on the planet. If you look at what he's done lately, he fucking started off by knocking out Derek Brunson in the first round, who was a streaking Derek Brunson who had 4 first-round knockouts of his own in a row coming into that fight. Derek Brunson may have got a little overzealous. Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker knocked him out. Next fight, Robert Whittaker fought Jacare. Robert Whittaker has fought a murderer's row to get to the interim title. It's kind of like Max Holloway or Tony Ferguson's run. They had to fight a murderer's row before they got to their title shot, and then they became an interim champion, and then they're looking to unify their belts. But before that, they fought a murderer's row. They pretty much cleared out the top of the division to get where they are. All 3 of those guys, Robert Whittaker, Max Holloway, and Tony Ferguson. So Robert Whittaker, after he beat Derek Brunson, moved on to beat Jacare in an amazing performance, shook off Jacare, ended up knocking out Jacare. Then he fought Yoel Romero in a 5-round interim fight where his leg was hurt injured in first round, so he fought Yoel Romero essentially on one leg through 4 rounds and still won the interim title from Yoel Romero, and now he's looking to fight another top contender in Luke Rockhold as he defends his interim title, which, I mean, it does hurt Robert Whittaker's pockets a little bit. You're not getting the pay-per-view percentages you would get if you fought George St. Pierre, the super fight, but he's still going to be getting championship pay for this fight, which is more than he's got, coming up to this point. He still came a long way. Robert Whittaker was, in his last fight, I'm sure he got championship pay when he fought Yoel Romero for the interim title. I mean, I don't know how their contracts are specific, but I will say Robert Whittaker has came a long way. He started off as a welterweight, moved up to a middleweight, and climbed all the way up to the top of the middleweight ranking. So Robert Whittaker, fucking looking forward to his return to the octagon as he's healing up from that leg injury in the Yoel Romero fight, and it's looking like he's going to be defending his interim title. So I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about that. It is what it is, man. Let the full-time family know what the fuck you 10 meant in the comments. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking DOWG.